that is not a concern that you should be having, because I do not believe in making people feel silly or ashamed for not knowing things. There was a time when I didn't know anything about politics, and I was always really nervous about asking questions about it because I was worried that people would think that I was uneducated. And so now I make myself available to answer people's questions about politics, and they don't have to worry about getting judged. They don't got to worry about getting roasted. I don't do debates. I'm not here to yell at you. You don't got to worry about if I ask this question, he's going to think I'm some sort of squishy libtard, or if I ask this question, he's going to think I'm some sort of MAGA lunatic. There's no judgments here on the live stream. I'm just here to answer your good faith questions with good faith answers. I know politics can be really intimidating when you don't know anything about it, so you can feel free to ask anything, and there won't be any judgments or ridicule whatsoever. And politics is it's almost like it's designed to be difficult to get into, because they're all the people just talk about it in the shorthand, like they'll use 3-letter abbreviations for various agencies, or they'll just talk to people about just using their last names. It's like, what if you don't know who Jayapal is? Or what if you don't know who McConnell is? Or what if you don't know who Shapiro is? Like all of these can be easily explained if you just ask the right person. And I think I am the right person, because I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to roast you. There is no such thing as a dumb question. I am here for all of your questions, regardless of how simple or complicated they are. I will do my best to give you a great answer. So yeah, there was a time when I didn't know anything about politics, and I was always really intimidated and worried about asking questions. I don't have guests come on my live. I don't do debates. So if you have a question, just throw it in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I remember being in college and asking my friends a question about politics, and they roasted me to death for that question, and so I did not like the way that felt, and I decided that I would make myself available to people, and there's no roasting here, guys. Bella Galetta says, Trump or Kamala? Kamala. It's interesting. I always get questions like that, like, are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? And it's like, are you trying to invalidate the things that I say? Like, if I give you some factoids, are you going to be like, wow, that's just some Democratic hack over there? Bella Galetta says, why? The list of reasons why I support Democratic candidates over Republican candidates, and specifically why I supported Kamala Harris over Donald Trump, it's a mile long. I could just do an hour just on that. So maybe let's get a little bit more specific, Bella. Like, is there an issue that you are particularly passionate about that we can kind of get into, and I can kind of direct my information that way? Don says, why do you support communism? Why would you assume that I support communism, Don? God Emperor Trump 2025 says, why didn't the Dems ask Obama or Biden for reparations? I don't think that was a very popular policy, and I don't think that they were. I don't think it was very front of mind for them. I don't know if that policy was, it was not part of the cultural zeitgeist. I'm pretty, keyed into politics, and I don't remember hearing any activists or anybody talking about reparations during both the Obama and Biden administration. James Stroutman 3 says, is there any way to stop the blatant lies and fear-mongering on mainstream media? I don't know that there are blatant lies and fear-mongering on mainstream media. I definitely think that there's like a profit motive in mainstream media, where they will, put stories out that are intended to cause fear and panic in people, but that's just to get eyeballs. But as far as like lies go, I mean, you'll find way more lies on right-wing media than mainstream media. King Dingaling says, is the government occupied by Israel? No, it isn't. Bilal El Badawi says, free Palestine? Yeah, let's free Palestine. Kyle says, thoughts on Nancy Pelosi insider trading? Nancy Pelosi does not have a monopoly on insider trading. A lot of politicians do it, including a lot of Republicans. And so I think it's hilarious that Nancy Pelosi's become kind of like the scapegoat, the poster child for insider trading, when Ted Cruz does insider trading also. And if you're looking for the party that is going to keep politicians from insider trading, like, the Democrats are the only party that has put forth any legislation to stop politicians from trading on inside information. But as far as like Nancy Pelosi doing it, I don't think anybody should do it. And I think it was dumb of her to suggest that it's fine that politicians do that. God Emperor Trump 2025 says, why is it only when Trump is in office that they beg for it? So they beg for reparations? I haven't heard this either, man. I don't know where you're getting your news from, God Emperor Trump 2025. You seem a little biased, my man, so I'm guessing that you're deep in the right-wing information sphere. As is the person underneath you who just said Donald Trump is Jesus Christ. So, I think maybe you guys can tone down the rhetoric a little bit, because I'm just on here answering questions about politics. Pastor Brown says they get their news from Elon and Twitter. Yeah, probably. Couch Potato of Amine says, who should run in 2028? I'm not really thinking about 2028. I am excited about the primary and the candidates that are going to come out and try to make their case to the American public. I'm a progressive, and I prefer to vote in a younger candidate as opposed to an older candidate. But, whoever wins the primary, man. I just hope that it's not like 20 candidates the way that we had in 2020. Stash says, should our government spending be audited? Yes, but that is not what Doge is doing. I should clarify. Sebastian says, definitely Florida's governor will run. I don't think that DeSantis is going to run because I don't think that Trump is going to let him. What you got says, Herrick could not answer the simplest of questions. That is completely inaccurate. And if you have a problem with candidates not answering questions, I think you should watch any press conference that Trump gives. HH says, how do you feel about Candace Owens? She's a hack. She's a liar. She's trying to pivot right now to make it seem like she's not an extremist because she wants to have a career in politics and she wants to appeal to the base. Yeah, she wants to appeal to the middle, I should say. That Mama Bunny says, why is Doge not auditing? Because that's not what their goal is. Their goal is to shut down programs that help people who are struggling. And by closing down those programs, they are hoping that they will help giant corporations and the extremely rich. Elon Musk is the richest person in the world. He is in league with Donald Trump, who is another extremely rich person, who is in league with Vladimir Putin, who is also an extremely rich person. Their cabinet has more billionaires in it than any cabinet in American history. All they are doing is trying to stop any sort of regulation that would hurt billionaires and giant corporations. And by doing that, they are going to be hurting the rest of us, the 99%, the middle class and below. Diana says, extreme leftist. So first of all, no, I'm not. And second of all, that is the kind of comment that gets you blocked because I don't care if you have different opinions than me, but just ask a question, be part of the conversation. God Emperor Trump 2025 says, are you sure? You seem so confident. I am sure about it. I mean, there's no question about the things that I'm saying. Like if you look at the things that they are doing, cutting the Department of Education, cutting USAID, cutting the Consumer Financial Protection Board, like all of these are organizations that are designed to help the little guy. And the big guy doesn't like that because they want to have more power and they want people to be desperate. Let's see here. Stacy Steele says, that's definitely not satire. I don't know what you're talking about it. And Mr. K. Martin says, Represent Us is a movement I like. I also like Represent Us. I don't know what they're doing, though. All I do is I see emails from them. And so I'm like, what's the plan, guys? How are we affecting change? How are we getting the message out there? Jacob says, RFK Jr., thoughts? He's a hack. He's a liar. He's an opportunist. I don't fucking trust him as far as I can throw him. I think that it is demonstrative of how shitty the Republican Party is that they let his nomination go through, and that the only Republican who had the moral backbone to stand up to him and Tulsi Gabbard was Mitch McConnell. Like, are you fucking kidding me, man? The most craven and cynical piece of shit in Washington is standing up against RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. Like, are you fucking kidding me, man? Like, that just goes to show you, man, not how bad RFK and Tulsi are, and also how far the Republican Party has catered. Let's see here. User Hope Which Number says, how can the average citizen revoke and deport a president? Asking for a friend. There's no mechanism by which American citizens can revoke or deport a president. But if you don't like what Trump is doing, then you need to vote for Democrats. You need to convince everybody else to vote for Democrats so that we can potentially impeach him after the 2026 election. Sweet Caroline says, I have to tell you, you remind me of Robin Williams when he played Popeye when you say, I haven't seen that movie in a long time, not since I was a kid. But I'm going to take this as a compliment now, then I'm going to check it out, and I will be either offended or not when I come back. Heath Shahan says, I am a Christian and I can't separate my faith from politics. Well, let's talk about that, man. Like, if you are a Christian, I was raised Christian as well, and I remember learning things in the Bible, like, love thy neighbor, and there before the grace of God go I, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to go to heaven. and the Good Samaritan and shit like that. Feed the sick, feed the hungry, clothe the poor, heal the sick. Like, how does the Republican agenda match with your faith if those are the things that you believe in as well? Carson Bowser says, is the government actually going to release anything about 9/11, MLK, JFK aliens? I don't know. Trump always says that he's going to do that, and I have not. Hey, what a cool hat I got. That's pretty cute. That was cool. I didn't hate that goose off my head at all. So yeah, he said he's gonna do it. I don't know if he will do it. If he does, I don't care. I'm not gonna sit here and wave my finger and be like, those are America's secrets. But I'm also not gonna be like, finally, this is what's gonna solve every problem in America, is finding out the truth about the JFK assassination. Silver Rush says, we don't need more government, we need less. I completely disagree with that, Silver Rush. The government is how we, the people, protect ourselves against the powerful, rich elites. And it is because of the government that we have things like protections for unions and, overtime pay and shit like that. So, yeah, I think that the government just needs to work better. And the same people I know that are complaining about the government being too big are completely fine with the government telling a woman what she can and cannot do with her body. Let's see here. Korthos, Digital Jedi says, Trump is a family man, be fruitful and multiply. Yeah, with how many fucking wives? That's not in the Bible. What You Got says, I do appreciate your civility, unlike so many others. Thank you, What You Got. I appreciate you being here. Isabel says, is Medicare safe with RFK Jr.? Medicare is not safe, but I don't think it's RFK Jr. that's going to be the issue. It's going to be every other Republican. Bobby B says, are you a fan of Doge? No, I am not. Doge it's not a real government organization. It is just a group put together by the richest person on the planet to dismantle organizations that try to take money from rich people and give it to poor people. Quentin says, what do you think is the biggest problem with the Democratic Party? So I do think that the gerontocracy and the centrist wing of the Democratic Party is a problem. But I don't think it's the biggest problem in the Democratic Party. I think the biggest problem with the Democratic Party is they do not have the reach or the resources that the Republican Party does. And so here's the thing, guys, all right? Like, there are definitely flaws with the Democratic Party. I'm a progressive. I like the left side of the party. I like the young side of the party. But not everybody in the country agrees with me, and I can deal with that. We are supposed to be a big tent party. The things that people think about the Democratic Party are generally pretty false. They get yelled at no matter what they do. All of social media is organized around throwing shit at the Democratic Party and elevating the Republican Party. Or, the best case scenario is that they just convince people not to vote instead of just like not voting for Republicans or whatever. So yeah, I think that's the issue. The Republican Party is in league with the richest people on the planet. And the richest people on the planet own the social media, channels. And additionally, it is really easy to manipulate social media if you have a lot of money and influence, which the Republican Party in league with the billionaire class does. So, there's nothing really that the Democratic Party can do to match that. And I don't think it's a problem that they can solve. I think that, all of the structural disadvantages of being a Democratic politician, plus even if we all pulled our money together and gave it to the Democratic Party, we still would not be able to match just what Putin and Musk and Trump can throw in just themselves. So I think it is incumbent upon us to not expect the Democratic Party to come to our rescue and to actually do the work ourselves, do the work of getting out the vote and convincing people of what the truth of the situation is. So yeah, that's the long answer. I know I got a little rambly there. Let's see here. Idaho Kaya Kangler says, who do you think will be the next president? I have no idea. I'm not really focused on what happens in 2028. I'm focused on what happens today and in 2026. Dan says, poor people in other countries, wouldn't you like for it to be given to Americans? Well, here's the thing, Dan. When you give money to poor countries, it helps America as well. The Republicans are throwing shade at USAID right now because they're saying, that's just an organization that gives money to other countries. First of all, it doesn't, because we sell food to other countries via USAID. And so there are American farmers who, because USAID is being shut down by Doge and Musk and Trump, those farmers have lost out on millions and millions of dollars of sales. Also, USAID is what keeps diseases from spreading around the globe. And because USAID has been shut down, we are now no longer screening passengers coming to us from places where they have Ebola and Marburg outbreaks for those diseases. So now it is easier for those diseases to get here into this country. When we have USAID, we are able to nip terrorist organizations in the bud because people are able to get resources and care from this organization that has the name USA in the title. Without USAID, they have to turn to terrorist organizations instead for their assistance. And additionally, the party that is complaining about that, the Republican Party, they're not going to use that money to help the poor. That is not part of their party platform. Their party platform is let's take that money and give it to the rich instead. All right, scrolling down to the bottom here. Let's see here. Douglas O'Day says the new Larry. I don't know who Larry is. Bobby B says no one ever voted for their tax dollars to go to USAID. I mean, that's kind of a simplistic and, it's not a great argument because there are a lot of things that people don't vote specifically for. Like nobody voted to start the war in Iraq, for example. But that is what being in a representative democracy is we vote for people to do the work so that we don't have to vote on every single fucking thing that happens. Let's see here. M Barnes 965 says, not true, funny, especially since they're 2 billionaires in Dem to 1 Republican. That is factually inaccurate, M. Barnes. 75% of all billionaire donations went to Republican candidates this past election cycle. The reason why the right wing is always talking about George Soros is because he's like our only billionaire that does political activism. And that's only taking into account like the donations that we can see, because there's also a lot of dark money that goes into the Republican Party as well, thanks to Supreme Court decisions like Citizens United. RDPSC says Kamala raised more money. That is completely inaccurate. Lovely Kawaii Blossom says, does the Republican Party really exist anymore? Seems like just MAGA nowadays. Yeah, it's the same word for the same thing. Bill Skins says, why can't you see both sides of the coin? I can't see both sides of the coin. Just because I'm a Democrat doesn't mean that I am biased and that I don't see the flaws of the Democratic Party. I am just wide-eyed about how the Democratic Party is like leagues better, light years better than the Republican Party is. Rob says, how is Kamala money inaccurate? Because Trump and Republicans got a lot more money than Kamala's campaign did. Kamala did really good as far as fundraising goes. She had a lot of small dollar donations, but 1 billionaire can outweigh every small dollar donation that Kamala Harris got. And the Republican Party, there are something like a couple thousand or like 1,000 plus billionaires just here in America. Of the ones that were making open and declared donations, there were only like 100. And I think like Kamala had like 82 of those billionaires and Trump had like 50 or something. But number one, we don't know how much money those billionaires were giving. We only know that the number of billionaires specifically. But if one billionaire gives 20 billion and the other billionaires only give like $5, that still means that Kamala Harris had more billionaire donors, but just Trump got a lot more money. But there's also dark money as well, which is a Republican policy that people that are extremely rich should be able to hide their political donations so that nobody knows what pieces of shit they are. Nobody knows what they're doing. And Republicans got a fucking ton more money. They always have more money than the Democratic Party does. And anybody who's telling you otherwise is lying to you. Let's see here. Soul 2 Core says, Musk did like 250 million by himself. That is what I'm talking about. Charlie says, but Kamala is so lame. First of all, I don't think she's lame. And second of all, I don't need my politicians to be cool. I just need them to think that climate change is real and not try to steal my money and give it to billionaires. Dirt Daddy 81 says, trust me, bro. No. Santiago says, Nancy Pelosi, $200K salary with $200 million net worth. Cool. Like, if you want to look at the richest politicians in America, like most of them are Republicans. So you can miss me with that shit. Shit emoji says, how and why are senators making $200K a year, but they are $200 million net worth? They probably get speaking fee engagements and they sell books and they do insider trading because it's completely legal for politicians to do that. And lots of Republicans do that. Some Democrats do that, but lots more Republicans do that. And Democrats put forth a bill to make it illegal for politicians to trade on insider information, and Republicans blocked it. So you can miss me with that shit. What's up? It's the Rocketeer. Good to see you again. What's up, Inverted Mystic? How are you? Thank you for being here. Spider-Man 824 says, Musk's weren't a donation, they were an investment. See his billions in government contracts. No arguments there, Spider-Man. Thank you, my friendly neighborhood Spider-Man 824. Rick says, come on, man, speaking fees? Haha. No, but that's a real thing. It's real. They get a lot of money from speaking fees. Goldman Sachs pays a shit ton of money to have former and current politicians give lectures to their employees and shit like that. Inverted Mystic says, we allowed to suggest videos? I don't know what that means. Oh, you sent like a link here. I don't know. I usually don't click on links from people that I don't know, so maybe you can just tell me what's in the video. Ever since 96 says, Democratic politician to the T right here. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Let's see here. Peace and Love says, what's the end plan of Elon? It's the same as every billionaire. They want to accumulate all of the resources and money. They want to be in a position where there are no consequences for the things that they do. They want a world where they can do murders and grapes and have it be fine because they have a ton of money. They want the fucking aristocracy that we used to live in during the fucking Middle Ages. That's what they want. And, the way that the way that Trump talks about being ordained from God, and Elon Musk talks about how he has superior genes to everybody else, he is specifically saying, we're better than you, and so you should be the serfs who, have no rights and have to work for pittance and live off of scraps while we fucking float around in our golden yachts, of which we have many. And we can have our concubines and, steal children and, shit like that. Z says, didn't you put your thumb in my butt? No, I don't think I've ever done that. Let's see here. M Barnes 965 says it's us against them. Yeah, we're the 99%, and we have to recognize that it is the Republican Party and the billionaire class that is in league with them that are the enemies that we have to do something about. Quinton says, I think the left is too exclusionary right now and has lost the middle. Thoughts? Yeah, I definitely think that there's an attitude amongst certain liberals that you have to be like 100% pure, and I don't agree with that attitude whatsoever. There are plenty of people who are like pissed as hell at Mitch McConnell for finally finding a conscience and voting against some of these Trump nominees, when I'm like, well, let's at least support him doing the right thing right now, I don't like Mitt Romney or, Liz Cheney, but at least they had the fucking backbone and moral fiber to stand up to Donald Trump. But there's the thing. When people talk about the left being exclusionary, they're not talking about politicians. They're talking about people that they see on the internet. And it is impossible to know if those are actual people or if those are paid bot accounts. So I want to talk about what Trump and Musk and Ted Cruz and Samuel Alito and Tulsi Gabbard are doing. Like, the politicians, the ones in power who are extreme fucking right-wing psychopaths. But the right wants to throw shade at, Knob Muncher 75, who said that, everybody who's not a perfect liberal is a fucking fascist, So I think that everybody who has that view of liberals needs to take a step back and think, like, the internet is not real life, and social media is the fucking Wild West, and you have no idea if that's actually what the cultural zeitgeist is, or if those are actually what people have to say and think. I'm tired of this argument that because liberals yelled at me on the internet, that's the reason why I'm a fascist now, where it's like, it's so easy for a billionaire to then engineer that, if that is the case, It's like, all right, I'm going to create a bunch of fucking liberal-looking, TikTok and Instagram accounts, and I'm just going to go out and yell at everybody for not being a good enough liberal, and then hopefully I will make all those people so angry that they'll turn into fascist Republicans, So yeah, let's all fucking recognize that, liberal schmo 8675, who doesn't even have a fucking profile picture, is probably not a real person, and we shouldn't be focusing on their criticisms of people in real life. All right, so over on Twitch, we got a couple of really long comments. Peachfib, good to see you again. But because of how long these comments are, I'm going to have to go to them later because it takes a little while to get through that. But please quote movies says, are Saudi royal princes richer than Elon Musk? I don't know. There is plenty of anecdotal evidence to suggest that there are certain people who are so rich and good at hiding their money that we don't know actually who the richest person on earth is. So Saudi princes, Vladimir Putin, they could potentially have more money than Elon Musk. But as far as we know, Elon Musk is the richest person in the world. Ree says, Elon has stated that jobs are going away due to automation, and we will need universal income. I do not believe that Elon Musk, maybe he said that a long time ago, but I do not believe that is a policy position that he believes in. Elon Musk is not trying to get universal basic income for people. I have seen zero evidence of that. And based on the type of person, of human being he is, I am extremely fucking skeptical. The Republicans already put together a tax plan that shuts down government agencies which help poor people, but gives another fucking, $1 trillion tax giveaway to the top 1%. Show me in there where they are supporting policies that would give the government enough funding to actually do universal basic income. Cool hat, Carbine. Thank you. I love all these hats you're sending me. Dan says Elon might be a rich stud, but his interests are not aligned with ours. I also don't think he's a stud, Dan. Ever since 96 says they already haven't paid taxes under Biden. You joke. I don't know who you're talking about as far as like they haven't paid taxes, but Biden didn't have a new tax plan. It was still Trump's tax plan under the Biden administration. Luis Aguilar says them school lunches were amazing. I don't know what you mean by that. Ike Tacular says, we know it's all messed up. How do we affect change? Here's the thing, man. I'm going to say this 1,000 times on this live. The way that we affect change is that we, the people, have to do the work. And it sucks. I don't want to have to do it either. But the fact of the matter is the rich have so much fucking money and power right now that there is no organization on the planet that can compete with them. The Democratic Party is powerful. They have a lot of money, but it's a fraction of what the Republican Party and the billionaire class has accessible to them. So we have to do the work. The one advantage that we have is that there are way more of us than there are of them. So we need to organize, we need to get out and vote, and if they try to do any fucking shady shit, then we protest, we boycott, we fucking take to the streets, we do our strikes, we let them know that without us, there is no fucking prosperity in this country. JD says the only way we change the situation we are in is revolt and revolution, ideally non-violently. All right, well, why is voting not part of that, my man? Every time somebody talks about like revolt and revolution, to me, it's code for I don't want to do things. People are just waiting in their houses, watching television, and just like hoping that the revolution starts like outside their apartment and they can look at it and be like, okay, I'm going to go outside and join that right now. Instead of actually doing the work of talking to people, knocking on doors, volunteering, joining groups like Indivisible. I was out here with my whole ass trying to get people to vote in the 2024 election while there are a bunch of fucking quote unquote lefties on the internet talking about, things are not really going to change until there's a revolution. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, now Trump is elected. The people in Palestine are fucked. The poor people are fucked. There are more children being born with AIDS now. We've got nobody stopping Ebola and Marburg virus from coming into this country. Planes are literally falling out of the fucking sky and crashing into each other. Is this better? Is this better than just fucking getting out and voting and convincing other people to vote? Also, if there is a revolution, like, we have no idea what government is going to arise from the ashes. Like, we're assuming that it's a socialist utopia, but it could just as easily be a fucking dictatorship. We don't fucking know. Guitar Fan says we're in a constitutional crisis. That is accurate. Steve Anderson, 682, says you're still thinking like a globalist instead of America First. Are you aware, Steve, that America First was the slogan of the American Nazi Party during World War II? I just think that's an interesting thing to think about. And also, we are living in a globe. We are all connected. If there's a fire in Canada, we breathe the fumes. If there's Ebola in Uganda, that could eventually get to us. What is your plan? Do you think America should just be like North Korea and have completely cut off borders? And so everybody who lives here now, this is what America is now. Just the people that are living here right now. It's myopic. It's dumb. It's shutting us off from technological advancements, scientific advancements, medical advancements. The rest of the world is going to be continuing to trade and, be cool with each other. And it's going to be like, they're Wakanda and we're fucking a third world country over here. It's not working great for North Korea. I don't know if you've ever seen any documentaries about that. Let's see here. Ben Snyder says, Gulf of America, drill baby drill. That is an example of a comment that will get you blocked. I don't care if you have different opinions than me, but just ask a question, be part of the conversation at least, Cheese says, Wakanda doesn't exist, LOL. Yeah, it's called a metaphor, my man. Steve Anderson's, they have to, we don't need them. We have what we need right here at home. We don't, Steve Anderson. There are plenty of resources that we get from other countries because we need them. Lithium and, precious metals and rare herbs and shit like that. There are foods that we can't grow here, my man. Also, we're in a population decline here in America. Like, we're literally going to need people to staff our companies and shit like that. Wheat from the Ukraine. Thank you very much. Dudester Dudette, good to see you again. Is it me or are you doing this every day? I do this Tuesday through Friday. Sometimes I add a Monday because I'm a glutton and I just fucking love doing these live streams. JD says 2024 was the most plane crashes in history. Well, the first mid-air collision in 16 years happened during the Trump administration after he gutted the FAA. So I don't know if what you just said was true, JD, but I know what I just said was true. Kenneth Irving says, and we're bringing in legal immigrants. I mean, we were, but Trump basically cut off all avenues to legal immigration unless you're an extremely rich person. So all he did since he's been president is increase prices and illegal immigration. Doge says, Dodge. Sorry, Dodge. I don't know if you meant to do that or not. What are your thoughts on the all deportations? I mean, the mass deportations that Trump is doing are stupid and inhumane. Grayson says, hire freeze didn't affect the FAA. It certainly did affect them. They were understaffed. That's the reason why that mid-air collision happened. Cheese says, everything we do needs done through the lens of America being the priority. I don't agree with that. And, I don't think that's good for America either to be doing that. It's not good for the world. It's not good for us to do that. Let's see here. Money says, first air collision did not occur under Trump in the last 16 years. It literally did. It happened like a couple weeks ago. Shea Cruel says, why are the checks and balances not checking and balancing Trump? Because Republicans have full control of the government right now. So Congress should be checking Trump, but it's under the Republican control. And so they are either scared of Trump, either being primaried or of the violence of his base that he has, continually encouraged, or they don't want to stop him because he's doing exactly what they want to be doing. The court system is also heavily leaning towards Republican power because the Supreme Court has a 6-3 extremely right-wing majority. All right. Somebody whose name I can't pronounce says, I heard MAGA was blaming Biden for the aircraft failures. LOL, ridiculous. I mean, air traffic control has been a strained resource for a long time. So I'm not out here trying to say that like Biden had fixed air travel and then Trump ruined it. It was struggling, it was leaking, and then Trump came by and threw a 1,000-pound weight on its back. It was a camel that only needed a piece of straw to collapse, and Trump threw a fucking anvil on it. All right, Money, you are spamming the comments, and so you are out of here. Doreen says, you liberals are ridiculous. Cool. You see how I'm not out here saying that you Republican voters are ridiculous. I'm talking about Republican politicians are terrible. M. Barnes 965 says, that's what happens when you hire by color instead of skill. All right, well, that's a racist comment, so you are out of here. Yeah, DEI is not about giving unqualified people of color jobs. It is making sure that overqualified people of color get jobs above mediocre unqualified white people. Lowercase J says, thoughts on Trump tweet on Ukraine war yesterday. I don't usually agree with the, some of the war hawk rhetoric that comes out of the right, but there are plenty of Republican politicians who have basically come out and said that Trump just gave Ukraine to Russia. You don't enter into a negotiation by already admitting defeat, and that's basically what he did. The things that Putin wants are to maintain the land that he's already stolen from Ukraine and to keep Ukraine out of NATO. And Pete Hegseth, who is Trump's Secretary of Defense, and also Donald Trump went out there and basically said, Ukraine's never going to be a part of NATO, and we're never going to get that territory back from Russia, so we should just start there. They've started the bargaining position. The fucking great deal maker Donald Trump has started his bargaining position with where Russia wanted to eventually get to. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Alrighty. Deuster Dudette said Republicans are so myopic with the we need to be first. Things are complex. They need finesse. Completely agree with that. Ever since 96 says Ukraine is a DEI county. First of all, your spelling's terrible. Second of all, I hope that's a joke. Our pin says MAGA are statistically less educated, and these comments clearly support that. That is true. Our pin that if you vote Republican, statistically, you are more likely to have not graduated from college or high school. Now, not getting an education does not mean that you are stupid. I want to be clear about that. And I also want to be clear that Republicans do not have a monopoly on getting tricked by misinformation and propaganda. But the fact of the matter is that this is one group of people who did not get an education, and maybe that makes it less. Maybe that makes them less able to discern what is misinformation and what is not misinformation, what is propaganda, what is conspiracy theory, and what is not. Maybe it makes you less able to make an informed decision, because again, you don't need education to be intelligent. And again, like I'm out here with my whole ass trying to form a coalition with people that have voted Republican in the past. I'm not here saying that you guys are dumb and we're smart, because there were plenty of liberals who got tricked. I pointed to me, but I did not get tricked. I voted in the last election, but there are plenty of liberals who got tricked into not voting in the last election or voting for Trump in the last election. Let's see here. Ryan W. said, sad that Congress are literally scared for their lives with this administration. Yeah, I mean, some of them are scared for their lives. But again, they had the opportunity to stop this a long time ago, but they chose not to because they liked getting their tax cuts and their extreme right-wing judges. That's number one. And number two is there are plenty of Republican politicians who are happy to go along with this power grab, fucking massive theft of government resources given to the top 1%. And I think we need to be clear about who is who here. It's going to be like the Nuremberg trials all over again, where, there are every Republican that happily went along with this is going to say like, oh my God, I was so scared for my life. I was so scared about what the MAGA base was going to do to me. And I want to be like, really, Marjorie Taylor Greene? Really? Really, Lauren Boebert? Okay, bro. Dewey Strings. I'm just a dumb country hick. Is that what you're saying? No, that's literally the opposite of what I'm saying, Dewey Strings. Carmine, reps us their values to sway votes with the uninformed. I love you, Carmine, but I'm not really sure what you're getting at there, my man. Embassy 7 says, what about Doge? I've said this 1,000 times on this live. I'll say it 1,000 times more. Doge is an organization that is designed to shut down parts of the government that help the middle class and below to the advantage of the 1% and above. It is specifically helping out billionaires and the top 0.1% and fucking over the rest of us. Somebody asked, is there hope in 2026? Absolutely. But here's the bad news. We have to do the work. And I hate it too. I don't want to do the work. I would just much rather play video games and watch movies with my wife. But the Democratic Party does not have the resources available to fight Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump and every fucking shitty billionaire that exists in the world. They don't have the resources to go to bat against Facebook and Instagram and and Twitter. They're just outgunned, and it is not their fault necessarily. They're a big tent party, and it is harder to mobilize a big tent party than a monolith. They have the governing philosophy of trying to do things and fix things, as opposed to the Republican Party, which their philosophy is to break things and not do things to prove how bad government is. And so it's harder for Democrats to do the things that they say that they're going to do. Also, because the Republican base is less educated statistically, and again, that does not mean that they're dumb. It means that the Republican Party is less accountable to actually telling the truth when they go out there on the on the stump and they tell people why they should be voted for and shit like that. They just lie and lie and lie. There's definitely hope, but we have to do the work. All of us. There's a lot of us out there who can talk to our friends and family and our neighbors and our coworkers and make sure that they are not getting their news on social media, make sure that you are correcting misinformation and disinformation and propaganda that they are hearing, and convincing people to vote. There are 85 million people in this country who could have voted and didn't, 30 million of which were already registered, so they didn't have to do that extra step of registering. We have to all do the work. We have to all do it. I'm out here doing it, guys. I'm talking to everybody about this shit. Please join me, because I can't do this all by myself. I did a lot of canvassing and volunteering for the 2024 election, and when I saw how badly Democrats did, there was a part of me that was like, oh, thank God. Because I couldn't, there are not enough shifts that I could have picked up to have made up that difference. But if we had lost by that much, I would have felt a little bit worse. Like, man, if I just done one more shift, I could have done it. It would have been like the end of Schindler's List. I was just like, look at that Saturday. That Saturday could have saved a district in Ohio. All right, let's get to some of these Twitch comments, because I've been ignoring you guys for too long because these comments are extremely long. Please Quote Movies says, do you think more education about logical fallacies would help people to think more critically about propaganda they're ingesting? Conversely, do you think we're all doomed to cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias? So the short answer is, I never think we're doomed. So long as there are people with fucking food in their bellies who are willing to do the work and have fucking wide-eyed and, are willing to educate themselves, then we are never doomed. So long as there are people out there with good hearts, we are never doomed. Good hearts and food in their belly, we are never doomed. And as far as like more education, absolutely. I think it is zero coincidence that the Republican Party has been hostile to public education and the fact that their base is statistically less educated than the liberals' base. And again, that does not mean that they're dumb, and it does not mean that they have a monopoly on getting conned by misinformation. So yeah, putting more money into public education so that everybody can better themselves is part of that step of making sure that people do not fall for misinformation and propaganda. Jive just says, I'd rather recommend for Americans to pay attention what British politicians are saying and doing. I don't know how that's going to help us, Jive Just. Inverted Mystic says, so basically how this would work in a modern sense is every money would be assigned a serial number, and if that money is not traded around, basically what will happen is the money will lose value automatically. That's an interesting idea, Inverted Mystic. Think about the economy like a blood vessel. If money is not flowing in the economy, bad things will happen. Hoarding wealth does not directly cause inflation. However, what it does do is prevent money from circulating through the economy. As a result, the government panics, and that is what causes them to print more money to artificially stimulate the economy. I think there's a lot of very interesting information in there, Inverted Mystic, and I think I think the thing that we can agree on is that rich people hoarding their money in offshore accounts where they don't spend any fucking, they don't pay any fucking taxes, and they're just sort of like able to sit on their fucking gold, like Smaug the fucking dragon from Lord of the Rings, from The Hobbit, sorry, part of the Lord of the Rings Tolkien universe. I don't want to get yelled at by all the fan people out there. Yeah, I think we can agree that that's bad. It is bad. We are choking our economy to death when we let billionaires hoard their wealth like that. Completely agree with that. I don't know if that's the exact policy solution that I would, go for, but I do think it's an interesting and a cool idea. I'd like to see some means testing on that before I put my whole ass behind it. J.D. Jones says the opposite of what liberal believes. Liberals are not the opposite of what the Christian story is, because liberals believe in healing the sick and feeding the hungry and clothing the poor, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, love thy neighbor, etc. Let's see here. Dan, do you think it would go to a popular vote? There could be a third party rise. I don't, because again, third parties don't have the infrastructure to be competitive on a national level, and they don't try even. The only third party that's doing this correctly is the Working Families Party, but everybody else, the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, all they do are these ego-driven, cash grab, spoiler candidate runs for president every 4 years, and it's complete and utter bullshit. Until we get ranked choice voting, every third party that does not do what the Working Families Party is doing, as far as like slowly building up the infrastructure and support to actually win national elections, you should never, ever vote for a third party candidate. I don't trust them as far as I can fucking throw them. J.D. Jones says the liberals do not believe in do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Yeah, they do, J.D. Jones. Sorry, but you're full of it, so you're out of here. Let's see here. Dan says, are you for ranked choice voting? I do like ranked choice voting, but we have to recognize that it's not a cure-all. We had ranked choice voting in New York for the mayoral election, and we still elected Mayor Adams, and he's a fucking corrupt piece of shit. I voted for Maya Wiley, everybody. Shay Tweezy, after getting rid of the programs, why not ask about the alternatives? MAGA is so lost. I think that the philosophy of Republican voters, and this is, again, not to say that they're stupid, is that they think that these things are going to be done to somebody else. And they think it is going to be to the benefit of them because they are the Americans that Donald Trump is talking about. And that's a large share of the Hispanic vote that Donald Trump got was like, yes, I'm for mass deportations because that's not me. That's somebody else. So, yeah, I think that Republican voters need to recognize that this stuff affects all of us, including them. And I think that we need to not be like, haha, told you so, whenever they get fucked over by this stuff, and be like, yeah, it sucks. Join us. Vote with us next time, and we will get you back your capped $35 insulin. Alex, it's going to take 4 years for a certain set to be deprogrammed. Maybe, we can get started today. The work starts today, everybody. Dan says, how come in other countries it's not a two-party system? I'm not sure. I can't speak on that with great authority because I'm not aware of like how political donations and voting works in like Sweden and France and Germany and shit. Let's see here. Jason, you'll get back open borders. No thanks, LOL. We never had open borders during the Biden administration. That was a right-wing lie. Out the way 209 says, is Trump a fascist? Absolutely 100%. And it's not Democrats that are saying that. It's other Republicans. It's people that worked in his cabinet who said that not only is he a fascist, but he is a fan of the Shitler people, if you know what I'm talking about. Trip Quick says, do you think Elon messed with the Pennsylvania voting machines? I haven't seen any significant data to suggest that that is accurate. I would love to believe that it is, but, Republicans did really well in every state in this country, including blue ones, and so it is less likely that he hacked every single voting computer in this country than it is just that misinformation, disinformation, people getting their news off of social media, and the incumbency bias where everybody was upset at whoever was in charge in 2024, regardless of if you were left, right, or center. Those are the factors that made it so that Republicans did better in 2024 than Elon hacking the computers. But I'm open to that. Doesn't make any sense to me, that people would vote for Republicans the way that they did. Let's see here. Supa Koopa says, we are the people. Go Republican or go away. No, that is not good, what you just said, my man. Let's see here. Texas Man says, yet you lie. I don't lie. And I also don't care for being called a liar. So you're out of here. Ike Tacular says, how about a civil guest to talk about the work? I don't like having people on the lives. And my lives generally do better when it's just me. So I'm going to be kind of strict about that. But I would say, if you have any questions about the work specifically, hit me up. My DMs are open, and you can email me through my website, jaredberenstein.com. Let's see here. Dan says, thoughts on Milton Friedman? I don't know enough to speak cogently about that. Carmine, why do they love Doge but don't care about the tax cuts? Because they are plugged into right-wing propaganda. And the right-wing propaganda is telling them that Doge is finding so much waste that all of that money is going to eventually get back into their pockets. And so it's okay if we if we give a tax cut to the billionaires, because we're making up all that money from not putting up illegal immigrants in 4-star luxury hotels, which is another lie that the Doge Commission has been putting forth, which is incidentally like the most perfect lie that Doge could be coming up with, because it is literally like your tax dollars are going to people who do not deserve it, who are also brown, which is just like, that is fucking the meat and potatoes of the Republican hate machine. It's just like, they're getting it. They didn't earn it. They didn't deserve it. You're not staying in a 4-star luxury hotel. You're just paying for them to stay in a 4-star luxury hotel, and they're illegals and they're different than you. It's the most perfect, propaganda narrative. Let's see here. Eric Martol 851 says, did red states crush a lot of votes? I don't know what you mean by crush a lot of votes. Like throw them away? I haven't seen any evidence that they have. Red states do a lot of really shady things to try to suppress the vote, like voter ID laws and closing down polling locations in Democratic areas, closing down DMVs, so it's really difficult for people to get their IDs so that they can go vote, shit like that. Gerrymandering, et cetera, et cetera. Out the way 209 says, do you think Biden was the one calling the shots? Yeah, but I also think that he was an extremely old person, so he probably, delegated a lot of work to his staff. And, his staff was very progressive and diverse, and I think that we saw that in the policies that were coming out of the Biden administration. And I think that he doesn't get enough credit for the fact that him and his staff negotiated paid sick days for the rail workers union, passed the first bipartisan infrastructure bill in over a decade, passed the first gun safety legislation, bipartisan gun safety legislation in over 2 decades, the largest investment in green energy in our nation's history, and got inflation from 9% back down to 2.4%. Let's see here. Jeremy Bryan says, liar. No. I don't care if you have different opinions than me, everybody, but just ask a question, be part of the conversation, because otherwise I'm just going to have to block you. All right, let's go back over to Twitch. Jibe just says, so concerned about Trump and Putin conversation rather than concern themselves with the conversation between those who can vote. I appreciate you hyping me up here, my man. Let's get to Peachfib, because I remember you from yesterday, and you were great, Peachfib. Reach and resources. I'm a financial advisor with pro bono work. How do you convince social workers and other professionals in the line of duty that there's a net positive in government welfare programs after taking into account the subsidization of the recipients' lifestyles? Now, when you say the subsidization of the recipients' lifestyles, it almost sounds like what you're saying is that government welfare programs are paying for people to go to the movies and drink booze and get tattoos and stuff like that, which is, very cut and dry, very specific Republican misinformation that welfare is a waste because you are paying for people to just sit on their asses and get high all day and shit like that. What government programs do is they help people get out of poverty. They help people not die of starvation. They help people not die of preventable illnesses. And so, as far as like convincing social workers and other professionals in the line of duty, they don't need to be convinced because they're the ones that are doing the work. Like, I don't think you get a job in social work or in government if you don't believe in the project of, like collectivism. I mean, unless you were a Republican, of course, in which case the entire mechanisms of the government are just to enrich yourself and your rich buddies. Sweet Caroline says universal healthcare would get everybody off social programs. I mean, there would still be financial issues with people. I don't think everybody's making enough money, even if they didn't have to worry about healthcare costs, Sweet Caroline. But I get what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Nodo says, how do you feel about compromise on 80-20 issues? I'm not really sure what you mean by that, Nodo. Nicole Billy says, do you think anything good can come from this administration, or is it as bad as it appears? It is as bad as it appears. But you can always find a silver lining somewhere. For example, Doge is talking about stopping production of the penny. And I think it's a good thing. That is definitely wasteful to make pennies. Nobody likes them. They're useless in our economy. Get rid of them. I don't mind saying that is a good thing that has come out of Doge so far. But it is probably worse than you even think that it is. As far as like, the power grabbing and the firing of government officials illegally and, the Doge Commission just like stealing money from government programs and putting it in Elon's pocket and, the fucking Doge Commission plugging in personal, hard drives into secure government computers that have not been vetted. So now we have no idea what kind of malware might be on those systems. It's a fucking nightmare, man. Ravens BIHHH says, why not get rid of every coin then? I don't have a problem with that. Jason, you're delusional, bud. Not one Democrat is talking about the wasteful spending and corruption. Yes, they are, but they're just talking about other things as well. And if corruption is something you really have a problem with, Jason, then how do you feel about the fact that the Trump administration and Republicans in general have basically been working to make corruption legal ever since for like the last 12 or 15 years or something like that? I'm not going to block you immediately, Jason, because I want to see what you have to say about that, but I have a prediction as to what your response is going to be. Let's see here. Gavin Newsom got a business loan from Gordon Peter Getty, famous billionaire. I don't know what your point is. Use a whole bunch of numbers. Sometimes people on the left get money from billionaires. It changes absolutely nothing of what I've been saying. Most billionaire money goes to the Republican Party. 75% of all billionaire political donation goes to the Republican Party. The Republican Party consists of the richest, most powerful people on the planet. The Trump's cabinet has more billionaires in it than any cabinet in the history of America. In his inauguration, it was him and billionaires and then Congress. So what are we fucking talking about here, my man? Christopher Benton says that's a lie. It is not a lie. Jason says that's false. Are you the guy who... Let's see here. Yeah, you're just saying no, Jason. Like, you're not actually addressing it. So you're not part of the conversation. You're just here to be mean. All right. Cameron Hodge 35 says, do you think Newsom handled the fires correctly? So with every natural disaster of unprecedented proportions, there's going to be mistakes. But I think that they did as good of a job as they could have been expected to do with the situation that they were in. As far as like, there's a lot of Republican misinformation about the specific mistakes that the Democratic government of California did for, taking care of the fires. A lot of that is complete and utter bullshit, but yeah, every single time there's a disaster like this, which again is unprecedented because of climate change. So we're dealing with winds and dry conditions and a lack of rain that has never happened in our lifetimes. There's going to be problems and we're going to have to adjust to those problems. Let's see here. Thunderstorms and Honey says, what's the most important thing to call Congress about right now? I think it depends on what kind of a representatives you have. If you are currently being represented by Republicans, I think that you need to talk about oversight. I think you need to talk about standing up to Trump. I think you need to talk about potentially impeaching him for, the things that he has let Elon Musk do. and the illegal closing down of government agencies that they do not have the legal right to do. Yeah. And if you live in blue districts, just tell them to fight. Just tell them to fight hard. And really, it's not about like what's the most important thing to tell them. It's about what is the most important thing to you, because that is the meat and potatoes. That is the juice of getting the most out of your elected officials. Is if they can tell that you are passionate about these issues, then they will move on them, because people who are passionate about these issues, they do things, and that is what politicians don't want. Like, they don't want you and 5 or 10 of your friends to form a political action group and start canvassing together and talking to people and primarying them and getting out the vote for their fucking challenger. They know what 5 to 10 people can do as far as like flooding their phone lines and invading their office and shit like that. So yeah, find the thing what is the number one issue for you, homeboy? And, Lend005 says, let's do it. Completely agree with that. Magic Tater says, no, they don't want us to know that they are stealing this money. I don't know what you're talking about. Cameron Hodge says, did you support any Republican candidate in 2024 besides Trump? I didn't support any Republican candidate in 2024. What are you talking about, Cameron Hodge? Let's see here. E3 says best Biden hire was Lena Khan. I agree with that. I mean, I also think Ketanji Brown Jackson was a great, nominee for the Supreme Court. D-Rock says tax churches. Absolutely. Let's fucking do it, man. Let's see here. All right. Sharabid says, should we talk politics to them or Malcolm X on them? I'm not really sure what you mean by that. I don't condone violence of any kind, so I'm not really sure. Ty Webb says wildfires never happen in red states. I don't think that's accurate. But also, maybe those red states don't have the exact conditions. There are plenty of flooding and hurricanes and other shit. So yeah, I don't know what you're trying to make it seem like a fucking thing, man. Tornadoes never happen in blue states. How does it feel, my man? Alrighty. Magic Taters says the Santa Ana winds aren't new. Yes, but they've never reached that level before. So, fucking miss me with that shit. Let's see here. Apple user, a whole bunch of numbers, says, actually, you're wrong. Go look at the statistics. I looked. I don't know what you're talking about because I'm not wrong about things usually. Chris Kraus, 236, says, anything you hear about mismanagement and the California fires is fake news. That's not true, Chris. There were definitely problems. There were definitely mistakes that were made. It's just different than what the Republicans and, Elon Musk and shit like that were saying. Alrighty. Erica, we have wildfires in Texas. Thank you very much, Erica. I thought that might be bullshit. Nodo says, do you feel your approach is a way to draw Republicans or engage non-voters? I hope so. Like, that's my goal. That's my fucking dream, man. If there was a crank that I could turn that would convince people who did not vote to vote, and even just convince Republicans to think twice about where they get their information, I would be cranking that fucking thing 24/7. And let's keep our minds out of the gutters, everybody. I'm talking about an actual crank here, all right? Let's see here. User a whole bunch of numbers says, do you like President Trump? No, I do not. Cam says, do you think there should be laws against misinformation? I don't know, Cam. Like, this is something I've been thinking about for a long time, and I don't know what the right policy is for fixing misinformation and disinformation. Because, if we have an agency that is set up, it's called like the Agency of Government Truth or something, and they are out there specifically to try to figure out what is misinformation, what is disinformation, and punish people for putting out misinformation, disinformation. Like, what is to stop an authoritarian Trump-like administration from taking over that, organization and saying that anybody who says liberal shit is misinformation needs to go to jail. So I don't know how you square that circle. I don't know what the policy solve is for that. I think the best thing we can do is just education, is just not choke our education system to death by cutting off all funding and shit like that. Mizo555 says, do you own crypto? No, I do not. This might be a good time to buy crypto because, Trump loves the corruption potential of crypto. Now, I will say that I did just hear a story about this on the news, how all the crypto bros were assuming that Bitcoin was going to go to the moon because Donald Trump was on board, but instead all he did was come up with his own Bitcoin, his own coin, and made a fucking shit ton of money on that. And now all the crypto bros are like, what? No, that's what we wanted, So I'm not sure, maybe if you want to get a quick buck, maybe maybe that's not the move exactly. But yeah, I don't own crypto. Even if it was going to make me a bunch of money, like crypto is terrible for energy. It's a massive suck on energy. I also don't use artificial intelligence because it just takes up so much fucking energy. I can't justify it. I don't want to be using planes and cars because of the damage to the environment, but I kind of have to just to live on the planet Earth with everybody, to live in civilization. But the two things that I 100% can do are not use AI and not buy any crypto. Italiana74 says everyone who's holding on a lot of change, at least pennies cash now. Let's see here. Samurai Destroyer. Hey, what's up? Good to see you, Samurai Destroyer. Peach Phipps says, I voted for Joe and Kamala, but I'm a Republican. Trump is an awful fascist, but I don't see the Democrats as a long-term solution because, as you mentioned yourself, too many on the left sit on their computers waiting for the revolution to happen. And it shows with their adult financial decisions that I have first-hand account on. This makes their platform seem like a welfare state is the only option. How do you disarm that argument? It's interesting. So I don't think that... So you said that you see a lot of people on the left making bad financial decisions that you've had first-hand accounts on. But I would say that I don't think that liberals have a monopoly on being financially irresponsible. If I had to make a guess, and I don't know this to be 100% the case, if I had to guess, I would say that it's probably more Republican voters that make poor financial decisions than Democratic voters. But again, that's just my taking the statistic of the fact that Republican voters tend to not graduate college or high school at the same rate as Democratic voters. Now, as far as like the Democratic long-term solution, like the welfare state is not the Democratic long-term solution. What we are looking at here are the economic system that we have been living under for a couple of decades has made it so that we have created communities of people who cannot get out of poverty no matter how hard they work, no matter how perfectly everything goes. And so the Democratic Party wants to fix those systems and try to make it so things are more fair and people can stand up on their own 2 feet. And what does that look like in the future with artificial intelligence and automation, like universal basic income, universal health care, universal public education? Like those are all programs that if they get implemented and work correctly, they should eliminate the need for things like welfare and unemployment insurance and shit like that. So the Democratic platform is about solving the root of the problem so that we don't need to have people on food stamps and shit like that. I think it is illuminating that this is the idea that people have about the Democratic Party when, the same way when, I see it more on the Republican side. As far as just doing something right now to solve the problem and having that just be the only thing. It's like crime is a huge problem. The Republicans are like, all right, more cops, throw more people in jail. But that doesn't solve the root problem of crime. The root problem of crime is poverty and a lack of education, a lack of upward mobility and, things of that nature, So yeah, that's what I would say to that argument. Yeah, I have never considered the Democratic platform to be all about the welfare state. That is exactly what, what do you call it? That is exactly what the Republican Party says about the Democratic Party, but that's not actually accurate. Yatu Sabe says, thoughts on a wealth fund to finance universal basic income. I think a wealth fund is a really good idea. The problem that I see with it is it existing under the Trump and Musk administration because everything that they do is a vector for corruption. They love Bitcoin. They love crypto because it's a vector for corruption. They love tariffs because it's a vector for corruption. They love propping up authoritarian governments because it's a vector for corruption. The Republican Party is literally taking apart parts of the government that are meant to stop corruption. They have eliminated the FBI division that goes after, oligarchs that try to stash their money in yachts offshore of Italy or whatever, Ted Cruz had a case before the Supreme Court trying to make it legal for people to bribe him after he wins elections by paying him back the money he lent himself for his campaign. The Supreme Court, the extremely right-wing Supreme Court, found that a bribe is not a bribe if you give it to somebody after they do a nice thing for you. It's only a bribe if they give it to you before you do the nice thing for them. But if it's afterwards, that's a tip. We see this time and time again that this is the Republican platform, is pro-corruption, you know? Let's see here. Alex says CFPB. Hello. Are you talking about the Consumer Financial Protection Board? I mean, that's another example, is they shut that down because that was a mechanism by which the little guy was able to get money back when they were scammed and cheated by the big guy, by like giant banks and giant corporations and shit like that. SMC says, yeah, because those organizations were known for being morally forthright. Yeah, they were. You're talking about USAID and the Consumer Financial Protection Board? Like, yeah, those were great organizations. So, like, what the hell are you talking about? Caleb says, then what do you call PAC donations or lobbying? Because to me, it's a bribe. I completely agree with that. Yeah, get rid of fucking super PACs, my man. Like, that's all Citizens United, which, again, is a right-wing principle. Like, that is a Supreme Court decision that came out of the right wing of the party. It is a Supreme Court decision that is being celebrated by the Republican Party because it means that billionaires are allowed to give regulated and what's the word I'm looking for? Unlimited donations, political donations to affect political outcomes in this country and everywhere, you know? Allah says, get rid of all lobbying. I'm about that as far as like we know what lobbying is, but there's also like really important ways by which people can discuss good policy ideas with the government, and that's sometimes called lobbying too. So I think we need to be specific about our definitions. Caleb says, then how come most Congress have extreme PAC donations? If you're looking for the party that has the least number of PAC donations, it's the Democratic Party, Caleb. Let's be cool. Let's be real. Let's be specific when we are talking about this shit. There are good politicians and bad politicians. There are good political parties and bad political parties. Better is better and worse is worse. Just because the Democratic Party has Nancy Pelosi does not mean that they have more insider trading than the Republican Party. The opposite is true. Just because you can find a Democrat with a super PAC does not mean the Democratic Party is pro-super PAC or they get more super PAC donations than the Republican Party. The opposite is true. Just because you can find Democratic districts that are gerrymandered does not mean that Democrats love gerrymandering or that we benefit more from gerrymandering than the Republican Party does. The opposite is true. And you can find this, you can look at this stuff through the lens of who's trying to solve the problem. The Democrats are the ones who put forward proposals to end gerrymandering. The Democrats put forward proposals to end insider trading. The Democrats put forward proposals to end Citizens United. Representative Pramila Jayapal just did that this week. She put together a constitutional amendment to end Citizens United. So yeah, have I convinced you yet, my man? Like, are you here still? Samurai Destroyer says, I'm a right-leaning independent. Let's see here. All right. Well, thank you for being here, Samurai Destroyer, who says that you're a right-leaning independent. I hope that I'm convincing you to become a left-leaning independent. Let's see here. Caleb says, it's not about parties, it's about corrupt and non-corrupt. Yes, but the parties are a shorthand, you know? What is the platform of the Democratic Party versus what is the platform of the Republican Party? If the platform of the Republican Party is making it easier for politicians to get bribed and corrupt, then the Republican Party is the party of corruption. And thereby voting for the Democratic Party, you are sending a message to Republicans that you do not like that policy, that you do not like what they are standing for, that you do not like the smell of what they are cooking. And if you want to, give people the shorthand for how to vote, you got to look at, all right, well, which is this politician supporting the platform that is trying to undo corruption, or is this politician supporting the platform of the party that is trying to increase corruption? Alrighty, let's see here. Goofy-wise, fiction/politics says, I want to take the means of production from the rich and put it in the hands of working class. Goofy-wise, so that is, part of the Communist Manifesto, and it is a principle that I think has a lot of value, especially in a country that is so, a country like America, where the rich have so much of a monopoly on our resources and our means of production. But here's the thing. Is there a value to some companies being not fully employee-owned? I don't know if there's an answer to that question. I think that we need more companies in this country that are employee-owned. I think that we need more kind of quote-unquote socialism and communism in this country. Because again, and I've said this a million times, I'll say it a million more times, communism, socialism, and capitalism are not versions of the government that have to exist it's not a zero sum game. Like you can have countries that are more capitalist and less capitalist. You can have countries that are more communist and less communist, and more socialist and less socialist. Every country that has universal health care is more socialist than America, but America is not zero socialist. Every country that incentivizes companies to be employee owned is more communist than America is, but America is not zero communist, etc. So yeah, I think that America could be more communist and socialist. Am I prepared to make it illegal for a company to not be fully owned by its employees? I'm not ready for that yet. I'd like to see some means testing on that beforehand, but I'm open to it. I think we need to start moving in that direction, though. Alice says, correct, but why does the right think their party is not at all crooked, but the other party is? I mean, this is the game of the Republican Party, is you accuse others of what you are doing, and then when the other party says that you are doing it, it makes it seem like both parties are the same, and they just lob the same insults at each other back and forth. Republicans call Democrats fascist, Republicans act like fascists, then Democrats call them fascists because they're acting like fascists, and then people look at the news and they go, the parties just call each other fascist, and they're both exactly the same. That's the Republican propaganda playbook right there. Lowercase J says, what is so wrong about the Republican Party? That is a question that would take me hours to answer, but I'll just give you a little taste, lowercase J. So these are some of the things that the Republican Party has done just since Trump has been elected, okay? The Republicans have proposed a bill to ban Plan B. Gas and food prices are soaring. They have a tax proposal that would be another $1 trillion giveaway to the top 1% and would cut services to people in the middle class and below. We have the worst rating on the global corruption index that we have ever had in our country's history. They have gotten rid of agencies that are in charge of stopping child abuse and human trafficking. It is now easier to do those things now since Trump has been elected. Let's see here. Democrats tried to subpoena Elon Musk. Republicans blocked it. The DOJ, the Department of Justice under Kim Bondi, who I believe is the name of the Attorney General right now, disbanded the team at the FBI that is tasked with fighting foreign election interference. Why are Republicans trying to make it easier for other countries to interfere in our elections? Let's see here. Trump reversed a rule that Biden put in place that lowered prescription drug costs. So now everybody's prescription medications are going to be more expensive. They left the World Health Organization and put a gag order on the CDC and the NIH, the Center for Disease Control and the National Institute of Health. That means that we are not going to have innovations in medicine. We are not going to be able to communicate with other countries easily about pandemics. We're not going to be able to screen people who are coming into this country from places that are having Ebola and Marburg virus outbreaks. We've got bird flu happening. We've got a TB epidemic happening in Kansas. And this is the time that we are cutting down our medical resources, that we are shuttering organizations that are intended to stop pandemics from happening. Trump did a fucking terrible job handling COVID, and now he's just going to do the same fucking shit again. They cut pediatric cancer research. That is research for medicines to help children with cancer. Republicans ripped that out of the budget. Like, what the fuck, man? Have I convinced you, lowercase J? Like, are you on board? Are you even still fucking here, my man? There are more billionaires in the Trump cabinet than there have ever been billionaires in a cabinet before. Do you think that is a good thing, my man? Let's see here. They fired the head of the Coast Guard for being a woman. They pardoned 1,500 of the January 6th rioters. Let's see here. They have halted medication for people with HIV that are intended to stop their children from getting HIV. So now more babies are going to be born with AIDS now, thanks to the Trump administration. Are these good things, my man, lowercase J? Are they good things? So yeah, that's the problem with the Republican Party. I'm not even at the bottom of the list yet. I got like 1,000 more things here, my man. All right, Inverted Mystic. Let's see here. Oh yeah, you guys are having a great conversation over here. I really appreciate you guys getting into things. Let's see here. Samurai Destroyer says, economically I'm more right-leaning, but I do support like universal health care and paid family leave. Samurai Destroyer, I would like to challenge you on that idea because the economy generally does better under Democratic administrations than Republican administrations. It is a consequence of decades of Republican misinformation that they have this idea of being the more fiscally responsible party as opposed to the Democratic Party. So I'd like to hear more about what you think the value of being more right-leaning economically is. All right, Johnny says, is there a file anywhere I can access this list because I have trouble remembering all these things? Email me, Johnny. Send me an email via my website, jaredbranson.com, and I will send you my whole fucking list here, my man. All right, so things have calmed down a little bit, so I'm going to do my outro, but I always do final questions after the outro, so please stick around. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank everybody for all your great comments and great questions. I fucking love doing these lives, and it is because of you guys that I'm able to continue doing them. And I appreciate any support that you can give me, whether it is the free kind, like liking and sharing and going to my website and, telling people how great my lives are and that they should check them out. If you can afford to do the financial kind of support, I appreciate that too. I have a Patreon that you can find on my website, jaredbranson.com. I have a store, jaredbranson.com/store. And also you can send gifts on TikTok and Twitch and potentially YouTube, but I don't fucking know if they can. I know that we are all suffering through a cost of living crisis, so if you can't afford to send me shit, don't send me shit. I don't want you to. If you have any questions that I was not able to get to here on the live stream, my DMs are open. The best way to get in touch with me, though, is to email me through my website, jaredbranson.com, because I don't have TikTok on my phone anymore because I switched phones and the app store is no longer letting me download it. My regular streaming schedule is Tuesday through Friday, starting at around 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I often start earlier because I really like doing these, and I often will augment that with a Monday because I, again, really like doing these. My schedule will be up in the air again starting in 2 weeks because I'll be on the road doing stand-up. I am a stand-up comedian, professional touring stand-up comedian. So when I am on the road, the schedule is a little bit more sporadic and difficult to pin down because I just got to try to find time when I'm on the road. It is difficult. If you ever want to come see me do stand-up, my touring schedule is also on my website, jaredbranson.com. I would say almost all of my dates for the entire year are on there right now. I might be picking up more dates, but so far that is my schedule. And yeah, just lastly, my sincere, heartfelt plea to not be cynical, to not be despondent, to not just give up, to get your news from someplace that is not social media, to talk to people in real life about politics so that we can all correct the ship that is, veering off course right now. There are great organizations out here that are already doing the work. Indivisible is a great organization that puts pressure on politicians and gets people informed about politics and encourages people to vote. Run for Something is a great organization that supports young progressive candidates under 40 to run for state and local office, and they're an awesome organization. I love Run for Something. And also Vote Save America is a great organization for getting out the vote and finding volunteer opportunities to get out the vote. And follow AOC. I think she's got a really good handle on Resistance 2.0. So yeah, do the work, guys. Do the work. That is the only way that we get out of this because, again, there is no organization on earth, including the Democratic Party, that has the resources to fight the Republican Party and the richest people on the globe. If we all do the work, then nobody has to do all the work by themselves. And the way we get out of this is we all take care of each other. All right, let's get into some final questions here. Peachfib says, do you know Tony? If so, how do you react to his Puerto Rico joke backlash as a comedian? I don't know him personally. I know of him. And I don't really care for him. There's an entire wing of the comedy community that is like the, cancel culture is an infringement on our rights of free speech. And I don't think that is a good argument. I think it's kind of dumb. I'm much more of a fan of Anthony Jeselnik. Anthony Jeselnik is a great one-liner comedian. His stuff is very dark and dirty, and he, in his last special, did the most perfect critique of the cancel culture argument, where he's like, I'm sick and tired of cancel culture. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I'm tired of people complaining about cancel culture. It's comedy. Do your fucking job. It's not that hard. He's like, Joe Rogan's a friend of mine, but if you listen to his podcast, you're a fucking piece of shit. You're pathetic, shit like that. Tony Hinchcliffe making a joke about fucking Puerto Rico being garbage, and he's definitely made similar offensive jokes. I just don't, it's so lazy, in my opinion, and it's lazy and entitled to complain that people don't like your offensive jokes. Just like, that's the job of being a comedian, is writing good material. And I'm getting this also from Anthony Jeselnik, who said, I think he got it from Andy Warhol, but he was talking about this in a podcast recently where he was like, Andy Warhol said, art is getting away with it. And so being a good stand-up comedian means that you get the laugh without getting the letters, you know? And you can get letters. You can definitely get letters. You know, like I talk about liberal shit during my stand-up comedy, and I'm sure people write letters about what a piece of shit I am and how, you know, Republicans are better than Democrats or whatever. But I don't then go on people's podcasts that go, it's these letters that are the problem, man. You know, like cancel culture is people. It's just people. It's people raising their voice and letting their, opinions be heard. That's the short version of that. I'm sure there's a much more nuanced and longer conversation I could have about it. Let's see here. Will Tidwell says, do you know Mark Normand? I do know Mark Normand. He was way above me in the New York comedy scene when I was living there. And so we don't know each other. He doesn't know me well, but I've seen him a couple of times. We've had a couple of conversations. We've run into each other a handful of times. Let's see here. Sweet Caroline says Jerry Seinfeld finally changed his stance on that. Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld has come around, and I was a huge Seinfeld fan, and then he started being one of these guys that complained about cancel culture, and I was so fucking disappointed. And then he came back around, and I'm like, yes, man, yes. Alrighty, let's see here. Will Tidwell says, are you shocked about the USAID information? I am shocked. I'm shocked and appalled, man. It is doing nothing but hurting everybody. You know, it's unconscionable. And the things that USAID does that helps people everywhere, including in this country, are so vast that just by shutting down the organization, they have illuminated people, even like myself. Like I knew what USAID did, but I didn't know how much they did. Like, it blew my mind hearing about all this shit. So yeah. That's it's depressing. It's disappointing. It's terrible, you know. And I only hope that that people will do the work and we can stop all this damage from happening. Let's see here. All right, I think I'm gonna start wrapping things up. Okay, says, can we talk about the political and economic state of the world? I am not. I don't feel, it seems like a really big question, and I'm not as much of an expert in foreign politics as I am American politics. Sweet Caroline says, where do we get your email? Go to my website, jaredbernstein.com. There's a comment section. There's a contact section on there. Let's see here. Samurai Destroyer says, what would free housing look like? That's a really excellent question, Samurai Destroyer. I wonder if you... Oh, yes. I don't support free college. I don't support student loan forgiveness. I do support free market capitalism. I do support some government intervention only when necessary, but not government overreach. I don't support Green New Deal. I am skeptical of minimum wage increases, and I don't support progressive taxes. That's so interesting, Samurai Destroyer. I'm really glad you're here, and I wish I wasn't wrapping up because, I really want to get into this with you, my man. I hope that you'll come back again, because I would love to dig into this. And this is, I haven't dug into a lot of polling information, but every time I hear about it, it really is demonstrative of how interesting people's political philosophies can be and how varied. I think it is interesting that in 2016, people's political choices were like number one, Bernie Sanders, number two, Donald Trump. Like the same person would be like, my number one would be Bernie Sanders, my number two would be Donald Trump. And to me, I'm just like, those politicians are so vastly different. And if you're going down the list of shittiness, like you should have stopped at Hillary Clinton before you got to Donald Trump, So yeah, I really want to get into this shit with you, man. So I really hope that you will come back. So yeah, everybody, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll be back tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Have an excellent rest of your Thursday, everybody. Take care, and goodbye, 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 goodbye.